Let us look at the false witness of Jessica Pinkerton and her mother, Doris Pinkerton Rush, and the false witness of Ryan Rush, who are apparently the three false accusers in the case of DHHS against Don Juan Moses, the case that was closed when evidence was lacking. But the effects of which remain imposed, which are the kidnapping of the children and the gaming of the housing and welfare systems by DHHS and Jessica in conspiracy together to arrange for this abuse of welfare and abuse of housing. Jessica Pinkerton will be described as a false witness through the perjuries that she utters at court and has uttered for the record, for the DHHS record. Let us simply look closely at the reason that Doris Pinkerton Rush, Jessica's mother, is interested in supporting Jessica's lies, that she's abused, and actually stating the same lies that she witnessed Don Juan Moses abusing Jessica, her daughter. Obviously, Jessica and Don Juan Moses had troubles in their relationship. And obviously, Jessica got to the point where she didn't want to be with Don Juan Moses anymore. Don Juan Moses was devoted to marriage, was intending to hope to save this marriage once they had children. He was intending to leave before he had children with her, he states, and that he felt very strongly that he should leave, but he didn't once they had children together. And once they had children together, he determined that the right thing to do would be to figure out with her how they could get along to do this work of being parents to these children. It was the responsible decision. It was the right decision. Jessica was not willing to cooperate, but continued in her uncertain ways, suspiciously indicating that she was involved with other parties or with another party over the time subsequent to the birth of these children. And even before the birth of the children, there was evidence of her infidelity. A text that Don Juan Moses saw that she was doing in the bathroom when he was apparently asleep, but he was awake. He went back to look at the phone, and there was a message from some guy, and it was Jessica later. Jessica then immediately stating that that was nothing. So that kind of thing, along with other things like somebody showing up at his job, his workplace, at, I can't think of the name of the store, but he saw a man immediately leave the store when he saw Don Juan Moses, and he suspected that he was involved with her because there was some interaction that he apparently can verify. So, what is it that motivated Jessica Pinkerton to be a false witness against Don Juan Moses? Why not just leave the home, knowing he's abusive, and asking for custody in the standard way? Why state that he's abusive in order to accomplish the arrangement of full or partial custody of the children? She already knows as a female that she's going to be treated with better likelihood of having the children than the man. That's a truism, a verboten truism of our culture, that a woman can game the system over a man whenever there's an accusation made of abuse. So she understood she could do that, and she did do that. But why did she not just move out and arrange for the court to still defer to her as the female, recognizing that she could get what she requested because she's the mother? In all likelihood, that was clear to her. Why did she not go with it? It has to be borne in mind that Jessica and her mother knew that Don Juan Moses could use against her the fact that Mason showered with a registered sex offender, her child from a prior relationship. It has to be borne in mind that they were concerned about that. In the event Jessica just left and wanted to get the children, that would come up in the proceedings, that she allowed this child to shower with a registered sex offender. They knew that's what Don Juan Moses would use against her, because he had broached that topic with her and hoped that she would decline from having that child further babysat at her aunt's house, where her uncle lived, who was a registered sex offender. She knew that that child said, "Me and Broski shower right over here," to the 6 adults who are the relatives involved in this matter. That is to say, Jessica and her intended husband, fiancé Don Juan Moses, Jessica's mother, Doris Pinkerton Rush, and her husband, Ryan Rush, and the pedophile James Buzzell and his wife, Carol. "Me and Broski shower right here," the boy said. So if Jessica were to leave Don Juan Moses, that was hanging over her. How does she deal with that? She wants to have custody, full or partial. How does she deal with that if she moves out? It's not going to look good. But of course, they weren't necessarily thinking about all the implications of this, but they might have thought about the fact that Don could verify that the children were babysat at that house when they were not babysat by Jessica's mother. But that's something to bear in mind, that they were concerned about that being brought up. What is amazing is that DHHS and Jessica both had the temerity to address that fact. Jessica to be forthcoming enough to say, "Yes, he has this over me," and DHHS to be foolish enough to ask the question and to write it down, which is the most foolish thing of all. If the DHHS were wanting to see what Don had against her in order to protect themselves, they wouldn't have written it down if they were very shrewd and cunning in the effective way. Their cunning was evident, obviously, but not effective, because they wrote down what they heard Jessica say, which is that Don Juan Moses will use against me the fact that my son showered with a registered sex offender. So we're talking about a very stupid thing being committed, a very amazingly bewildering blunder on the part of DHHS, which can only attest to the hubris of unaccountability, of infallibility, and of immunity to which they have become accustomed. They are so long accustomed to their unassailable arrogance of presumption to do as they please that they went too far. Elaine Tucker, my late wife, who I will see on the other side, by God's grace, said that pride always goes a little too far and exposes itself. And that is exactly what happened. The DHHS blundered into an international news event by saying that a child showered with a registered sex offender and sweep it under the rug. It's not germane because the child doesn't belong to you, Moses. That's the older child that Jessica has. Deal with only the 2 children that are yours. We're not dealing with pedophilia against the older child. This is the mandated reporter of all mandated reporters, the DHHS itself. The wolf guarding the sheep, saying, never mind that particular lamb was devoured. We're dealing now with the other two right here. You focus on those, never mind the other one. Don Juan Moses took that oldest child on as if he were his own. He raised that child. That child has an indelible impress of Don Juan Moses' generous spirit, loving and joyous, affectionate, demonstrative spirit. And he's concerned about the welfare of that child just as much as he is his own. But the DHHS system operates on divide and conquer. The motivation for lying is very simple. If she wants to assure the best chances of getting full custody of the children, she has to accuse him of being abusive. And she has to accuse him on the very thing that he did, accusing her that she's been cheating, but expressing it by way of concern and being as magnanimously gentle as possible. She, of course, has to simply make it very aggressive. She has to make his statement aggressive, and the DHHS has to certainly beef that up to make it aggressive enough so that it looks like he's about to pop. They have to state to DHHS that Don Juan Moses is physically violent to her, and hence a challenge to the children. They can't prove that he's violent to the children because he's not. So they have to suggest that the children are collaterally damaged by whatever Don Juan Moses could or might do to Jessica, and that they are mentally tortured by the constant hounding and abuse and epithets used against Jessica. Not true. I've known Don Juan Moses for a year now, over a year, and I can state emphatically that he does not use epithets to describe women. That is not part of his mentality. But that's what's described in the DHHS paperwork and in the judgment of Judge Cashman. So they had to lie and say that he was abusive in order to get a better chance at the custody of the children, full custody. Doris Pinkerton Rush had a motivation also because she loved the children and would do anything for them, as Don Juan Moses attests. And so she goes along with the story and even says that I've always thought that Don Juan Moses would murder Jessica. So that adds, obviously, enough punch to help her get Domestic Violence Coalition assistance, along with the setup of a key incident in which Jessica ostensibly lost her key at a gas station. Don Juan Moses shows up. In the meantime, they're waiting 20 minutes, and there's a Don Juan Moses lookalike who they say is Don Juan Moses lurking in the shadows. Whether there was one or not is, of course, immaterial. The statement by DHHS is that there was a man there, namely Don Juan Moses, who was 20 minutes waiting by a black Suburban with tinted windows. Obviously, the implication is that he was waiting to take Jessica away. Jessica, of course, denied that when Don Juan Moses had a recorded conversation on it, as I told him we must record. But the important thing is that DHHS was certainly willing to put that into the record, and Jessica was willing, obviously, to state it with a friend who joined her that day to pick up the ostensibly lost key. I don't believe the key was lost. I believe it was a staged action to get more information, as Don Juan Moses believes too, for the Domestic Violence Coalition. Fraudulent information, of course, that Don Juan Moses was stalking her. It was a very foolish way to do it because she's requesting a key. And if she's requesting a key, she's not afraid of him stalking. At least, certainly on the face of it, it appears very much implausible. If she's trusting enough for him, having left him, to have him deliver a key himself rather than arranging for the key to be brought by someone who's safe, then she's not concerned about stalking. Nevertheless, that was sufficient to help her get domestic violence housing, sponsored housing. They have to show some kind of abuse. And the lie was obviously attached to the police at the level where they changed the document date so that it fit the domestic violence issue that happened in the next trailer over, so that the day that Don Juan Moses called on the next-door neighbor's domestic violence issue was changed to the date that the children were taken from the home, so that the Domestic Violence Coalition could have yet another evidence of domestic violence in order to get the housing for Jessica. So they maneuvered that also, which was the other motive of Jessica. And the mother, of course, wanted the daughter to have comfortable housing. So there it is.